Welcome to Logic Medico. Today's interesting topic is muscles of the anterior compartment of thigh. It is also called as extensor compartment of thigh. So let's start with the muscles. Number 1, Sartorius. So Taylor's muscle. Based on the action, it's called like that. Any muscle in this body can be explained under the following heading: origin, from where it starts; insertion, where it gets attached to; nerve supply, which nerve in the body controls it; and actions. So even Sartorius I am going to explain to you under these following heading: origin, insertion, nerve supply, and action. So without much delay, let's finish this. Muscles of the anterior compartment of thigh. Origin of Sartorius is from the anterior superior iliac spine and a notch just beneath that. Kindly note, I am drawing it for you so that you can reproduce this in the exam. Whereas the insertion of this muscle is on the tibia. Which part of the tibia? Upper and medial surface of tibia. This portion of the tibia. Upper and medial surface of the tibia. So when drawing the muscle, we have to usually use brown color. So you can write like this. The insertion is like a hockey stick like insertion. Okay. You can draw like this and then turn it around like this. So this is the insertion. This is the origin. Anterior superior iliac spine and the notch below it. Insertion, tibia, upper medial surface of the tibia, like a hockey stick like insertion. Other two muscles coming at this region, upper medial surface of tibia, include gracilis and semitendinosus. They are separated from Sartorius by a bursa called anserine bursa. Near the insertion we can usually show as green color, that is the inferior attachment or the insertion. Nerve supply, obviously the front of the thigh we have the thigh bone, the femur, so the nerve going over here will be the femoral nerve. Specifically speaking, it's an anterior division branch, but if you write femoral nerve also you get marks. So the nerve supply is femoral nerve. L2, L3, L4. Action. To understand the action, we should know that over here the Sartorius is on the lateral aspect of the thigh, so it can cause abduction of the thigh, movement away from the midline. So this abduction of the thigh and lateral rotation of the thigh. While reaching to its destination, the Sartorius muscle is slightly placed posterior to the knee joint, so it can cause flexion of the knee joint. So it flexes the knee joint. So most of them don't understand this flexion of the knee joint because its orientation is on the posterior aspect of the knee joint. So it causes abduction of the hip and lateral rotation of the hip joint. Whereas here it causes flexion of the hip joint. Flexion of the knee joint. This is about Sartorius. Move on to the next muscle, that is called as Rectus femoris. So rectus means straight, femoris means in front of femur. Rectus femoris is the next muscle. So this muscle takes origin not from the anterior superior iliac spine but from the anterior inferior iliac spine. So this anterior inferior iliac spine will be the origin for the straight head. There will be one more head which is just above the acetabular cavity. That's called the reflected head. So this muscle has got two heads, the straight head and the reflected head. The straight head takes origin from the anterior inferior iliac spine. There is no problem in that. The reflected head takes origin from the acetabular margin. This is what you have to understand. So since this muscle is straight in front of femur, you can call it as rectus femoris. So this much diagram is good enough for you to give marks, but if you want to understand fully, so here I will show you. Yeah, this is a hip bone. So acetabular margin, this is a reflected head and this is straight head from anterior inferior iliac spine. Finally, it is inserted to the base of the patella, the anterior margin of the base of the patella. So this is the patella. Muscle is crossing the anterior aspect of the knee joint, which is the extensor aspect. So action will be extension of the knee joint, especially like for example kicking of the football. Now, football mania is done. So if you kick a football, so obviously but kicking action is done by rectus femoris because extension will be there at knee joint, this joint. This kicking muscle, we can call rectus femoris as the kicking muscle. Now supply obviously the femoral nerve. Femoral nerve supplies the rectus femoris. Specifically speaking, posterior division of femoral nerve. It also supplies, gives a branch to the hip joint. The femoral nerve, which is supplying rectus femoris, also gives a branch to the hip joint. Moving on to the next muscle. The next three muscles are very simple actually. Most students complicate this, but they are very simple. They are the three vastus muscles. So what are the three vastus muscles? The vastus lateralis, medialis and intermedius. So what is this lateralis, medialis and intermedius? Let's see this without much delay. So I'll just show you the diagram of the femur, simple line diagram. Okay. Let me complete the head. Yeah, this is the head of the femur. So yeah, this is the femur. Simple line diagram of the femur. You don't worry about the beauty of the diagram. You concentrate on the output from the diagram. So vastus lateralis takes origin from the following. See, please note the name lateralis. So it takes origin from the lateral half of the intertrochanteric line, the lateral part of the greater trochanter. Obviously it will be inferior part of greater trochanter also, but I am telling lateral. Lateral to gluteal tuberosity and lateral lip of linea aspera. Please note this lateral lip of linea aspera, gluteal tuberosity are on posterior plane. I'll repeat one more time the origin of vastus lateralis. Lateral half of the intertrochanteric line, the lateral part and inferior part of the greater trochanter, lateral to the gluteal tuberosity, and the lateral lip of linea aspera. Finally, it is inserted to patella. Which part? By common sense, it should be the lateral border of patella. So it is inserted to the lateral border of patella. Also a part encroached towards the base of patella, but you concentrate mainly this insertion, lateral border of patella. So this is the origin and this is the insertion of vastus lateralis. So this vastus lateralis is crossing the front of the knee joint. Obviously it causes extension of the knee joint. Next, moving on to vastus medialis. In the similar plane, I'll just use a different brown color for a better understanding. See, please note it is vastus medialis. So it takes origin from the medial half of the intertrochanteric line, the medial part of the spiral line, the medial lip of the linea aspera, and the medial supracondylar line. I repeat, the medial half of the intertrochanteric line, the medial part of the spiral line, the medial lip of the linea aspera, and the medial supracondylar line, the upper part only, upper half only. Obviously, by common sense, it is attached to the medial border of the patella and the adjoining base. Whereas vastus intermedius takes origin from the anterior surface of the femur. So anterior surface of the shaft of the femur along with a part of lateral surface gives origin to the, I'll just show you. So this is the origin of the anterior and the lateral aspect of the upper 3/4 of the shaft of femur is the origin of vastus intermedius. Obviously the insertion will be base of patella. Which part of the base? In the beginning I told you to remember the anterior part of the base gives attachment to the rectus femoris, this one. So it will be the posterior border of the base. If you consider the base has got two borders, the anterior and posterior, so it's attached to the posterior aspect of the posterior border of the base. So that is the insertion of vastus intermedius. Obviously all the three vasti will cause extension of knee joint. the rectus femoris plus the 3 vasti together, they are 4 in number, right? So they are together called as quadriceps femoris. So this itself can be a 3 marker. What is quadriceps femoris? It is a muscle which has got 4 heads. They are rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius. Together it's called quadriceps femoris. The tendon of this muscle is attached to tibia actually. That portion of the tibia is called as tibial tuberosity. So it's attached to this part of the tibia. Subsequently, with wear and tear, the tendon of quadriceps femoris, there is an ossification center, nearly 5 to 10 ossification center which develops, and this ossification center within the tendon will result in a formation of kneecap or the patella. Now the insertion of these 4 muscles is shifted onto the patella. Rectus femoris on the anterior margin of the base, vastus intermedius on the posterior margin of the base of patella, vastus lateralis on the lateral margin of the base, vastus medialis on the medial margin of the patella. Now whatever existing tendon was there, what tendon of quadriceps femoris, the distal degenerated portion, now this will be termed as ligamentum patella. So why are you modifying the word tendon into a ligament? By definition, ligament connects bone to bone. Is patella a bone? Answer is yes. Is tibia a bone? Yes. So this is called as ligamentum patella or patellar ligament. Superiorly attached to the apex of patella, inferiorly attached to tibial tuberosity. Ligamentum patella itself is a 3 marker. Quadriceps femoris is also a 3 marker. So whenever they ask ligamentum patella, you should tell it is a distal degenerated portion of quadriceps femoris. Attachment superiorly apex of patella, inferiorly tibial tuberosity. This is what you should tell. Last muscle in the anterior compartment of the thigh is Articularis genu. To understand Articularis genu, as the name suggests, Articularis means it's related to joint. Which joint? It is a knee joint. So inside the knee joint we know there is a synovial cavity. That synovial cavity will have an extension above the patella. It is called the suprapatellar bursa or the suprapatellar extension. So Articularis genu takes origin from the lowermost part of the anterior surface of the femur. This is the origin. Lower 1/4 anterior surface of the femur. Its insertion is the suprapatellar bursa. So for convenience sake, I have written all the things separate, but they are actually jam packed next to one another. This is the femur tibia. This is the patella. Okay. This is the Articularis genu. Articularis, the last muscle for the day. Articularis genu. Articularis genu, origin lower 1/4 anterior surface of femur, insertion suprapatellar bursa or the synovial membrane. Obviously the nerve supply is femoral nerve. All these muscles are supplied by femoral nerve only. It pulls up the synovial membrane during extension of knee joint so that the synovial membrane is prevented from bursting open. What happens whenever there is extension like this kicking movement? Both the femur and tibia try to crush the synovial membrane because there is a crushing action between the bones, between the femur, between the tibia. So someone has to pull this out. Who is that someone who is pulling it out? Articularis genu. This is pulling the synovial membrane upwards during extension so that the synovial membrane is not damaged. It has been protected. Therefore, it's called Articularis genu. Genu refers to knee. Articularis refers to joint. So, knee joint muscle. Articularis genu, supplied by femoral nerve. To summarize, muscles of the anterior compartment of thigh are Sartorius, Rectus femoris, Vastus lateralis, Vastus medialis, Vastus intermedius, and Articularis genu. Sartorius begins from anterior superior iliac spine and the notch below it. It runs downwards, forwards, and medially and inserted like a hockey stick in the upper medial surface of tibia. Supplied by anterior division of femoral nerve. Action, abduction and lateral rotation of the hip joint because it is on the lateral aspect near the hip joint. While going towards the knee joint, it's more on the posterior plane. The posterior aspect of the knee joint is a bending surface, so it will cause flexion of the knee joint. Remaining all muscles will cause extension of the knee joint. Rectus femoris origin, anterior inferior iliac spine, the straight head and upper margin of the acetabulum, reflected head. Both the head joints, it is straight in front of femur, therefore the name rectus femoris, attached to the base of patella, anterior margin of course. Action, extension supplied by femoral nerve, posterior division. Next, vastus lateralis takes origin from the lateral half of the intertrochanteric line, lateral part of the greater trochanter and inferior part of it, and then lateral aspect of gluteal tuberosity, lateral lip of linea aspera, insertion lateral border of patella. Everything is lateral. It's an easy way to remember. Vastus medialis, medial half of intertrochanteric line, medial part of the spiral groove or spiral line, medial lip of linea aspera and medial supracondylar line. Attachment, medial border of patella. Everything is medial here. Medial lip of linea aspera, medial supracondylar line, medial border of patella. Okay. Moving on to the Vastus Intermedius, it takes origin from the anterior and lateral surface of upper 3/4 of the shaft of femur. Insertion, base of patella, of course posterior border of the base of patella. Articularis genu takes origin from the anterior surface of the lower 1/4 of femur. Insertion, suprapatellar bursa of the synovial membrane of knee joint. Action, it pulls out the synovial membrane during extension of the knee joint. Now supply femoral nerve, so it protects the synovial membrane. Ligamentum patella is a distal degenerated portion of the tendon of quadriceps femoris. Quadriceps femoris includes 4 muscles: rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius. This quadriceps femoris initially attached to tibial tuberosity. Subsequently, ossification center develops within the tendon to form a triangular bone, the kneecap bone called the patella. After the formation of patella, the 4 muscles insertion are shifted onto the patella. Vastus medialis towards the medial border, lateralis towards lateral border, intermedius and the rectus femoris to the base. Hence, the distal portion of the tendon is now called as ligamentum patella, since it's attached to the patella, superiorly apex of patella, inferiorly tibial tuberosity. So this is in front of the knee joint. Thank you for watching and learning from Logic Medico. If you are new to our channel, kindly consider subscribing. Don't forget to press the bell icon to receive all the notifications on day-to-day basis. Click on all notifications and don't forget to like this video and share this video with your other friends, and kindly help your other friends too. Thank you once again. Have a good day. Bye.